5 years ago, the tyrannical rule of the Arcadia Empire, which had lasted for centuries, was finally overthrown in a coup led by a mysterious black machine dragon. To this day, the identity of the knight who piloted that dragon remains unknown. People continue to talk about the knight and refer to him as the Black Hero. After the fall of Arcadia, the kingdom was renamed the New Kingdom of Atismata. One night, Lux, the seventh prince of the now-defunct Arcadia Empire, was chasing a cat across the rooftops of the New Kingdom's royal castle. Unexpectedly, the roof beneath him collapsed, and he ended up crashing straight into the royal bath, landing right on top of Lisha, the princess of Atismata. Lux had no idea how things had gone so wrong. Lisha immediately covered herself and accused him of being a pervert. Clearly furious, she demanded to know what his last words were going to be before he died. Lux panicked, scrambling to think of something to say. Then he remembered a piece of advice from an old man he once worked with: women appreciate compliments. So Lux told her that she was cute, had a great figure, and was very attractive. Lisha turned bright red with embarrassment, while everyone around them screamed in shock. Lux was horrified at how things had spiraled so quickly. He tried to explain that he had not meant it that way, but before he could say anything else, Lisha struck him hard. Lux was immediately taken into custody. He felt incredibly unlucky, especially since he still had work to do that day. He shouted that the whole thing was just a misunderstanding, apologized, and explained that he had fallen from the roof. When another girl arrived, Lux quickly tried to explain himself. He said that a girl's purse had been stolen by a cat, and he had been chasing it across the rooftops to get it back. He had no idea it would lead to this. Cruelchifer, one of the girls nearby, asked if the sword device lying nearby belonged to him. She noted that it was rare to see someone carrying two swords at once, especially a black one like that. Not long after, another girl named Chalice appeared and asked what Cruelchifer was doing there. Cruelchifer casually replied that she had just come to see the adorable little peeping Tom. Chalice then told Lux that the headmistress wanted to see him. Chalice and Tilfer brought Lux to the academy's headmistress. On the way there, Tilfer mocked Lux, saying he must have guts to go around groping girls while the third-year knights were away. It turned out that the place Lux had stumbled into was the Royal Drag Knight Academy. When Lux explained the situation to the headmistress, Relie, she admitted that she already knew who he was, a former prince of the old Arcadia Empire. Relie vouched for Lux, saying she had known him for a long time and believed he would never do something like that on purpose. Lux knew the academy trained drag knights under the rule of the New Kingdom of Atismata. Relie explained that ever since the coup 5 years ago, the kingdom had put everything it had into training drag knights to ensure their strength could rival other nations. The Academy's mission was to train young girls who were believed to have more potential as drag knights than boys. Relie then asked Lux to work at the Academy. Both Tilfer and Chalice were stunned. Lux, too, was confused about why she would want him there, especially as a boy. Relie explained that ever since the coup, male drag knights had become extremely rare. Someone like Lux was now valuable. She also believed that the two swords he carried were not just for show. Of course, Tilfer and Chalice were not immediately convinced. Then Lisha entered with a group of other girls. She made it clear that she disagreed with the idea of letting a boy, especially a shameless one like Lux, work at the academy. Lux realized that Lisha was the same girl from the bath earlier. Tilfer warned Lisha to keep her distance from him, and Chalice told the others to stay away as well. In the end, Relie handed the decision about Lux's punishment over to Lisha. She challenged him to a duel and said she would determine whether or not he was worthy of being a drag knight at the academy. The other girls seemed intrigued by the challenge. Relie added that Lux had won a prize from a royal tournament in the city and was still undefeated. His nickname was the Undefeated Weakest. Lisha was shocked that someone she saw as a pervert could be undefeated, and the more she learned about him, the less she liked him. Lisha pointed her sword at him and declared that it would be a one-on-one battle using their drag rides. If Lux lost, he would be imprisoned and treated as a criminal, but if he won, he would be pardoned and allowed to work at the academy. Lisha asked her friends to announce that there would be a duel between the new princess of the Atismata Kingdom and the former prince of the old Arcadia Empire. Lux was stunned to find out that Lisha was actually a princess. She then revealed that she was the first queen of the Atismata Kingdom, the very one that had destroyed the Arcadia Empire 5 years ago. Shortly after, Aerie, Lux's younger sister, arrived with a friend to meet him. Aerie couldn't believe what Lux had done. Lux apologized for causing a commotion at Aerie's school and asked why her friend wouldn't sit down. Aerie's friend said she had heard that if she got too close, Lux could lift her skirt just by breathing. Lux was shocked to hear that. Aerie introduced her roommate, whose name was Noct. Noct didn't expect that Aerie's older brother was the kind of guy who gave off such a sketchy vibe. Lux insisted that it was all just a misunderstanding. Aerie looked troubled, wondering what she would do if Lux were arrested. Ever since the coup, they had been treated as criminals just for being survivors of the royal family. The debt they carried as part of their pardon was too much for Aerie to handle on her own. She urged Lux to make sure he worked properly as a volunteer. Lux told her he had been doing his best, but Noct brought up how his efforts had apparently ended with him barging into the girls' bathroom and causing a scene. Aerie felt overwhelmed at the thought of her brother ending up in jail. Lux apologized again. No matter what, Aerie wanted Lux to win against Lisha. Noct pointed out that Lisha was unbeatable at the academy, but to Aerie that made her a worthy opponent for Lux. The day of the match finally came. Students gathered in the stadium to witness the battle between Lisha, the first queen of the Atismata Kingdom, and Lux, the seventh prince of the former Arcadia Empire. Lux and Lisha faced off in the arena. Lisha asked if Lux knew why she had challenged him to a fight. Lux assumed it was because he was a prince from Arcadia. She told him she would reveal the reason if he managed to win. Both of them activated their drag rides. Lisha mocked Lux's drag ride, which turned out to be an ordinary wyvern. Her own drag ride, in contrast, was a powerful high-level unit named Tiamat. According to her, there was a huge difference between his and hers. Aerie, watching from the stands, was amazed. High-level drag rides rarely use ancient weapons, which were incredibly powerful and could only be controlled by strong individuals. The difference between Lisha's Tiamat and Lux's wyvern was clearly massive. The match began. Lisha opened with a barrage of shots aimed at Lux, and he tried to dodge them. She easily landed a hit. Before continuing, Lux made a request. If the match ended in a draw, he hoped they could settle things through negotiation. He also apologized for what had happened in the bathroom. Hearing that, Lisha called him unbelievably stupid, which only made her angrier. Immediately after, Lisha activated her special weapon, 7 heads. Chalice was surprised that she would go that far. Tilfer questioned whether it was safe to use such dangerous weaponry with students so close to the battlefield. Before launching her attack, Lisha suggested that Lux stop using that wyvern and switch to his other sword device. Unfortunately, Lux did not want to use that sword. Lisha began her attacks and Lux kept dodging. It turned out that Lisha's attacks were strong enough to damage the arena's protective barrier. Lux started to worry that if one of those attacks hit him, it might actually kill him. The match announcer requested for the barrier to be repaired, and Rayleigh wondered whether Lux and Lisha were thinking about the safety of the audience at all. According to Noct, if things kept going like that, Lux could be in serious danger. Aerie pointed out that it was Lux's own doing, but even so, she said there was one thing that could always be said about him. Once Lux made up his mind, he would always follow through. Meanwhile, Lisha thought that if the fight dragged on, time might run out and the match would end in a draw. She began to suspect that this was the reason Lux was called the undefeated weakest. Lisha had no choice but to use the Tiamat's highest special move, Spray Shot. That attack brought Lux down and destroyed the surrounding area of the arena. This special move was a rare ability only possessed by high-grade drag rides, and Tiamat's unique trait was the power to manipulate gravity. However, using it together with a special weapon could cause Lisha to lose control. Thinking the battle was over, Lisha believed she had finally defeated Lux, but suddenly, her body froze and she couldn't move. Lux asked her to leave her drag ride. Lisha refused to give up just because of that. She still wanted to fight and defeat him, but right then the arena's protective barrier disappeared. At that moment, an abyss appeared. A monster that was only supposed to show up at the ruins. Aerie was shocked and questioned why there was an abyss there at all. The information center immediately called for instructors to bring the triads and evacuate all the students into the school. Chalice and Tilfer tried to calm the students and urge them to take shelter inside. The command center instructed all wyverns to form a protective shield around the gargoyle and defend the students. Hearing this, Lisha was confused and didn't understand what was going on. The Abyss's attack managed to break through the barrier and Lux rushed in to strike back. He asked Lisha for one favor. Meanwhile, Chalice scolded Aerie and Noct for still being outside when they should have already taken shelter. Tilfer also called out Noct, especially since she was a Triad member, for standing around doing nothing. Noct explained that Lux was Aerie's older brother. At that time, Lux was still fighting the Abyss. Tilfer was surprised that he was willing to take on such a powerful enemy using only a standard drag ride. Chalice advised Aerie not to interfere and just wait until the instructors arrived, but Aerie believed that since there was only one enemy, Lux wouldn't lose. Lisha had already stepped back by then and felt relieved that Tiamat had calmed down. It turned out that Lux's request was for her to come down and help target the enemy. Lisha was annoyed and asked if Lux was trying to give her orders, but Lux explained that he would give her the signal to fire, and that signal would be when he raised his sword above his head. Lisha didn't know what Lux was planning to do with that broken sword, but she knew her 7 heads cannon had only one shot left. She couldn't believe she was about to use it, all to support someone like Lux, a so-called useless prince. Lux kept dodging the abyss while occasionally firing at it. The command center asked Lux to hold on, saying help was on the way. After that, Lux raised his sword as a signal, but the abyss immediately broke it. Lisha then fired the 7 heads cannon at the abyss and successfully landed a hit. After the shot, Lisha mentioned that if a defensive maneuver could open up a window of opportunity for attack, then she could unleash her full strength. And that was the basic strategy for fighting monsters. She quickly rushed over to Lux, who had collapsed. Later that afternoon, Lisha was soaking in the bath replaying everything that had happened. She started to suspect that Lux had intentionally made himself the target to give her a chance. And it was the first time a guy had ever tried to help or protect her. At that moment, Lux was lying weakly in bed. He dreamed of someone asking whether his wyvern would fight alongside the other person's Bahamut or against it. The dream woke him up immediately. Right then, he saw Lisha walk in and ask how he was doing. Lux asked if she had come to take care of him. Lisha put down the glass of water she brought and said that she came because Lux had saved her. Lisha could no longer tell whether Lux was genuinely humble or just acting arrogantly. She also wondered if everyone in the Arcadia Kingdom behaved like that. Lux himself wasn't quite sure anymore. He had been forced out of the kingdom since he was a child. Lisha was puzzled by how Lux could be willing to fight an abyss with just a regular drag ride. That wasn't something ordinary people did. Lux admitted he didn't really remember all the details. He just felt like he had no other choice back then. Lisha thanked him for protecting everyone, and Lux responded by calling her a generous princess. Lisha proudly said that she did consider herself to be a fair and generous one. They both laughed. Lisha confessed that she now completely trusted Lux, and Lux felt relieved hearing that. Then Lisha revealed the real reason she had challenged Lux to a duel. It was because she couldn't just let him walk away after seeing her body. Lux admitted that he had seen everything and thought it was beautiful. Lisha scolded him and called him a pervert, though what she was actually referring to was the mark below her stomach. It turned out to be the emblem of the Arcadia Kingdom, and Lux was surprised to find that he had the same mark. Lisha wasn't ready to explain why yet, but she asked Lux not to tell anyone about it. Lux promised he wouldn't. Lisha then asked why Lux was so stubborn about not using his black sword device. Lux couldn't give her an answer, and Lisha understood. If they both had secrets, then it was only fair. She told him that starting tomorrow, Lux would officially be a part of the academy. The previous order from the headmistress had been revoked, and Lux would now be attending as a student knight of the royal family. Lux was shocked to hear that and didn't quite understand how it all happened. Before leaving, Lisha asked Lux to start calling her by her name, just like the others did. Unbeknownst to them, their conversation had been overheard by Crucifer.